Welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net. Thank you for staying with us this Easter Sunday. Today we are speaking with Tom Morrison, and during the break we were talking about HB 3487, Tom.
Right.
Tell our listeners what that is and how that will help the schools and the programs.
Well, I serve on the Elementary and Secondary Education Committee.
Okay.
And,
well, you were a teacher.
Right. I taught at a private school for 6 years, and so I think that's why they put me on the committee.
It's a good committee for
you. Very busy committee. It's one of the larger committees too in terms of members or number of members that serve there and the number of bills we have to look at. But we hear frequently about unfunded mandates on the school districts, and the need to repeal some of those or provide waivers to the school districts because they're very costly. And virtually everyone knows that the state has been slow in paying the districts. So, for example, the state will tell school districts, you have to transport the children to the schools every day. Most of the suburban school districts get paid by the state on a quarterly basis. So last year really made headlines because the fourth quarter payment did not come. It was months and months late. And so what my bill would have done, HB 3487, would say, look, if the state of Illinois is slow in paying or is late beyond one payment cycle, then there are some unfunded mandates that school district should be able to waive on its own. Now, transportation, there are some issues that we would not be able to waive, or a district would not be able to waive. But my staff and I were able to come up with a list of 10 things that they would be able to waive as a cost-saving measure.
What were some of those 10 things?
Well, there's a writing assessment mandate, driver's education. That was probably the most controversial one that we included in that.
There's an example. The reason you've got driver's education in the school system is that makes more union members.
Well, the IEA opposed me most vehemently on that particular
Everybody
issue.
ought to look up what the driving instructor in their school system is paid. Typically, you'll find driving instructors getting $120,000 a year in salary for a driving instructor. Now, those fellows can retire at age 55 with a pension of probably around $140,000 a year, and now they're a professional driving instructor, and they could go make the wage that a person would in the free market, and they might get maybe $30,000 or $35,000 a year salary, working full-time instead of half-time as a driving instructor teacher. It's a great example of the foolishness of having the schools teach driving to the kids and to have no control over the cost of it.
Well, you know, I got to say something. My son took driver's education, but we paid a private driving school, and it was about $400 or $500. But do you know, at our local high school, it's almost the same. As a parent, if I was to have my child go through the public education system of driver's education, I still have to come up with out-of-pocket to pay for driver's ed.
So you pay for it anyway.
I don't understand why that would be.
And they're paying a union employee $120,000 a year, plus a fantastic pension when they retire. And the teachers in the schools are in there, 170 days, not 240 like a regular person, and they work from 5 hours to 7 hours a day. In Chicago, it's mostly closer to 5 hours.
But they grade papers at home,
and they have an hour off during the day to grade papers. They got computers. They got the students to grade them. It's a bunch of baloney about all this hard work.
Well,
but the fact is, most of this teaching is a little bit more than a half-time job when you're on the job. And that goes for the driving instructor. And they just should not have $120,000 a year driving instructors in the school system.
Now, Tom, what else besides driver's ed? What were you covering out?
So it would have, right now the state requires school districts to monitor and track dropouts if they re-enroll in school. I mean, it's just one of those mandates where you scratch your head and you think, really? You know, why should we have to dedicate time and staff to monitoring a dropout and monitoring that student's education in another district? Or, I mean, it's just one of those silly things that I don't think school districts
They ought to
should
monitor
do.
the ones they got in the high schools in
Right.
Chicago, because only half of them are going to graduate, and those that do, and this is a piece of information from one of the administrators of one of the West Side high schools that asked me to go and give a talk about, if you had a 6th grade education, we could teach you on the job. We could take you on the job. If you knew a 6th grade, that's enough. And we could educate you up to a $50,000 a year job in a machine shop. But you had to be able to do 6th grade arithmetic.
Okay.
Well, what he told me was only half their kids were graduating, and those that were at the 6th grade level. Actually, most of them can't do 6th grade arithmetic, because as a businessman, I'll tell you, 3/4 of the applicants for jobs, I've got a big machine shop and all that, but 3/4 of the applicants cannot do 6th grade arithmetic.
What does 6th grade arithmetic entail?
Well, 5 plus 2 would be the first question.
Okay, well, that I mean,
It wind up with decimal equivalent.
I was going to say fractions, decimals,
Fractions,
maybe a little bit of pre-algebra.
multiplying fractions.
Yeah.
But anyway, and
Sure.
another
Arithmetic, and by 6th grade, you know, you should be doing most of that. You know, in the 3rd grade, you should be well along in arithmetic. But we find that 3/4 of the people can't do 6th grade arithmetic, and in the city of Chicago, it's worse than that. So it's you know, they monitor people that have left the school system. Why don't they look at what they got sitting in the school system with teachers that aren't teaching them anything?
Yeah. I was just going to mention one other mandate on the top of my head, that school buses have to use, or school districts have to purchase 5% soy biodiesel for their buses. You know, so that it's just another unfunded mandate.
That's something they have to do. They
Right.
have to purchase soy biodiesel.
A blend that includes at least 5% soy biodiesel in the.
If
Well,
they-
look at
So
The garbage trucks in Barrington, where I live, and I know because they pick up my garbage, are running on gas and have been for a long time.
natural gas, right?
Natural
Yeah.
gas,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And the school buses ought to be running on natural
Natural gas,
because
yeah.
they always come back to a garage where they could get a fresh tank very easily and would take care of things.
Yeah.
If they had any brains, they'd be doing that. But there's no brains in a school district. It is the worst managed organization in the whole state without question. And it isn't the teachers that are dummies. It is the managers of this thing.
And I believe
and
it's-
the union.
And I believe it's designed for that purpose. I mean, look how much they've gotten away from math, English, you know, the 3 R's, and origami. Origami teacher comes in for 9 months, gets $95,000, health care package and everything else to teach origami. You know, the state mandates all these other programs, and really all it is the unions trying to bloat it, trying to make the monopoly bigger. That means more teachers. That means more money.
That's Mike Brown, who normally runs the
I've never heard of an
technical part.
origami teacher. I have to admit that.
I've never heard of one
Is that
either.
a school district around here that?
Bill Zettler found the origami teacher that was getting that. I believe it was. It might have been 125,000,
Well, if you
but I
go
didn't
to
want
our-
to go overhead.
If you get to our statistics at Champion,
That's where it's at. Yeah.
.net.
you'll find 4th grade geography teachers making $159,000 a year, and so forth with music and other things. Not that it isn't nice, but those are outrageous salaries, and they show the extremely bad management of those people at the top making $200,000 a year salaries. A lot of the managers up there. Folks, you got about 860 school districts in the state of Illinois, and they got superintendents that, for the most part, are making $150,000, $200,000 to $250,000 a year for a part-time job. And there's 860 of those, and they retire at age 55. So when they retire, you got a parade of half a dozen of those before. They never did any heavy lifting, so they're going to be with you until age 85 or 90. So every management job in the school system has got a parade of about 6 people on it that are making a full salary as if they were still working. So, and the superintendents typically retire at $200,000 a year. So it's spaced 5 or 6 years apart. You got a parade of them, 6 superintendents, each making $200,000 a year. That's $1,200,000 for one job.